was thinking back to a summer job that I had when I was probably like 19, and there was a girl that worked there that was this really like smart college girl, like just kind of like just professional college person, like looked like she did about like 8 years for fun at college. And there was like a rumor that got around because she told somebody that like she shouldn't have told, like a thing that she thought about me, and it made its way back to me. And she said that I look like there's just nothing going on in my head. Just behind my eyes, nothing. Like, which is like worse than being called stupid or anything, because it's just like, no, you can't even formulate a stupid thought. Like you're and I'm just kind of like, damn, dude, I used to show up to work stoned a lot, so like I would imagine, and like I get comically red eyes when I'm stoned. It's not like some people where they just like their eyes are a little low. Mine are like really like someone just kicked Pokemon sand attacked me in the eyes. But yeah, I was just thinking back to those days. But she'd probably be really kicking herself if she saw that I was doing a paranormal podcast now, right? She'd feel stupid. Yeah,
he does in fact have something going on.
Yeah, I'm sure she's making like $600K a year for organizing things. I don't know, at an office now, but
from the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by the visit Glen Rock, need crypto told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. Who you with?
Introductions. We got a huge team today. Huge team because it requires a huge team, what we're going to talk about today. So alphabetical order. A couple of people on here. This is their debut on the main feed for all the freeloaders. You guys have missed out on these guys for all this time, but we'll give you guys a little taste for free. Aidan. I'm just going to call you Aidan, right? Okay, Aidan, you've written for us, right? You wrote The Elephant in the Sensory Room, which is a great piece on our Substack. But I think one of the goals today is we all want to find out how weird Aidan is. We're gonna bring it up. We're gonna extract it, like a making wax or something out of Aidan, like out of Aidan THC leaves,
Fine distillation.
Yes, that's what we're gonna do. So that's the goal today. But again, Aidan's written for us. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Honestly, no. I got nothing.
No, I love it. Absolutely love it. J. David Osborne, he's from a hit podcast. I'll call it a hit podcast, Agitator, because it's a wonderful show. You guys have been on a roll lately, absolute roll. The book club, the listener mailbag one is fantastic. All of that stuff is great, and I think you guys are really hitting your stride. But you're also an author, and you've been on this show a few times. You got stuff to plug. Come on, let's hear it.
Yeah, if you want to listen to Agitator, you can go to patreon.com/agitator. I think you can find it on Spotify, but I would prefer if you went to Patreon and went through that portal, because there's one more step that I feel like you as a listener can take to fully appreciate the show. They say that if you don't play, you don't feel if you don't pay, you don't feel invested in the show. So it's really about you and your enjoyment of the 2 hours a week you spend with me and my co-host Kelby. Got a cyberpunk book out right now called Dying World, and I'm about done with its sequel. And other than that, yeah, that's what I got.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
What about your workshops and stuff? Aren't you willing to help people write? I mean, don't you do consultations and things like that? Like, I mean, I'm sure we got some writers out there. I guarantee you we do. So do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah. So I was in education, and then since the pandemic shut everything down, I switched over full time into helping writers develop their novels. So I do everything from proofreading to content editing, developmental editing, and my rates are very reasonable, and I've got really good reviews on readsy.com, so you can look up my profile on there and see all that good stuff. But yeah, it's nice to make money and eat. So
yeah,
I'd be happy to fix up your book and make it something people like to read.
What's agitator?
There's your problem right there. Dude. Yeah.
What's agitator gonna be when you guys are rich, dude? That's what I'm wondering.
Just balling out of control. I really see it as a Scarface story,
Yes.
Right? And
I like
it's just been 2 years of like the first 15 minutes of Scarface, right? So it's a much longer form Scarface tale. Right now it's just about two dudes who are struggling to keep the lights on while talking about anime, and hopefully soon we can Kelby and I will learn Japanese and fly to Tokyo, and we'll do episodes completely in Japanese. It'll become completely unintelligible.
You're gonna forget about us? Don't forget about us. Dude.
Absolutely not.
That's all I ask.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. Or it might be beneficial too, though. It's okay if you like give me a preemptive like weak email, be like, hey, we don't know. That's like you could text me, but like we don't know each other. Just
hey, could you pull down our episodes we did together? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm just cleaning up the back catalog.
Just clean it up.
It's because I want to put it in the archive. I want people to pay for it. It's not like
exactly.
We would just paywall it. We would just paywall it. That's all we would. So Scott is here with us too. Now some people would be like, who's Scott? You know what I mean? And for you, slap yourself, right? Because you are not on our Substack feed, rarecandy.substack.com. He's done 3 coast to coast episodes, right, where we talk about a lot of stuff that we're going to be talking about today, but not all of it, of course. But we kind of tether it to the late great Art Bell and Coast to Coast AM. Scott, what's up, man?
Oh, not much. Thanks for having me back.
Of course, man. Of course, I'm so excited. He's a very he's just like, so you're so proud of your hometown, which I like, you know what I mean? Because I feel like where you're from, you're a Missouri guy, you know what I mean? Like where that's from, I think a lot of people call it like flyover, dismiss it, is all that stuff. And I think you like, there's a lot of cool stuff that happens where you're from, Mo, you know what I mean? Like that I think people just tend to be so coastally elite about, and just kind of toss it by the wayside,
Well, I mean, I'm in St. Louis, so I mean, it's like a metro area of like 3 million people. So like, I mean, you obviously hear like the standard bullshit online, people ripping on my city because of crime, because it's like usually in like top 3 like murder capitals of the US. That's all you hear about, and people tend to exaggerate a lot. Like, you hear people like say they like come here and like, oh, it's like a fucking apocalyptic wasteland. It's like, no, it's not, man. Like all the like really rough, like bad parts, like where you like can't stop at like stoplights and shit, like that is like so cut off from like the rest of the city, where like you can't even like stumble into that shit on accident, and, like it doesn't like apply to me. So yeah, like I defend St. Louis a lot just in that regard, but also now lately I've been really into just like pumping Missouri as a whole. No,
I don't like people that don't like where they're from. Like, I mean, I get it if you're like, I was ready to move. It was time to go, new chapter. I understand that. But like the whole, I escaped. I'm a survivor of St. Louis, survivor of California.
So, I mean, dude, another thing I really hate is you got all these like tough guys around here. Cause like, people will like act like they're hard asses for living here, like makes them like fucking like street smart or something, and it's just like it's so obnoxious. But yeah, like Missouri though, like I don't know, I'm getting like really into like the like nature and shit around here, because it's actually like a beautiful state. Like we got, I've been talking about caves and shit like on here with you guys, and but yeah, like I just like found out like recently from like a Linda Moulton Howe episode of Coast to Coast that there was a UFO crash here like 6 years before Roswell, and there's like a book about it. Yeah, and it didn't even like come out until like the 90s. So I'm like trying to like delve into that kind of shit,
Of course.
And also like I live like 20 minutes away from Cahokia Mountains, which is like right across the river in Illinois too.
Sick.
And I was telling you, Glenn, like how I want to go out there and trip balls at some point, but the only thing that kind of like freaks me out is there used to be human sacrifice there. So
well, if you're by yourself, I mean, if you're by yourself, you only got one guy to worry about sacrificing, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's also like a tourist spot, so I'd have to like hide in the bushes or something.
It's like, hey, there's this guy with this weird vape pen that starts, it doesn't look like weed, and he's tripping out in this bush over by here. But other than that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Sai sent this thing, and I don't have the thing here, but it was like the Bigfoot iceberg.
Oh yeah,
dude, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of at the top of it. I was just like, wow, the Bigfoot seems cool, you know.
Not only
at the top of
but
it.
They added like 2 or 3 completely blank spots beneath it because they ran out of room. So it was just like beneath the iceberg, completely dark under the water. I would too. I was like, this is like uncharted waters for me. Yeah. So this is.
Well, what was the samurai sound thing? Can anyone help me out with samurai chatter? I saw one that where like you don't know Bigfoot unless you know about the samurai chatter. Like don't even talk about it. Does anybody know? Can anyone help me with why you might hear samurai sounds?
I never saw this pyramid.
Oh, it's like a slightly.
Let me see if I can find it.
It just sounds like something that's not English, and it's kind of like slurred and like almost little metallic sound to it. It's weird. There's like some recordings that I've seen pop up that it's a weird noise.
We're gonna need you
like
to
from
do
Japan
samurai impression right now on camera.
Yeah.
Free feed. Let's go.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. I mean, it would be crazy if it was just Bigfoot was just implemented by the Japanese. You know what I mean? Like if it was just, that could be a future agitator episode. I don't know, but I don't think we should write it off just a second. So I'm not able to share it in the thing, but I will see if I can put it in our little chat for everyone to see it. But it's quite extensive of the layers. Like I said, Sai says the iceberg runs out at the bottom. Like they're just going down to like where the submersible of the a couple weeks ago crashed into. It's quite interesting. But Bigfoot's like kind of massive, no pun intended, out here as well, like in the Bay Area. Like there's so many sightings, and like it's very normal people, like people that you'll see like charging like a Tesla in their front yard. They'll just be like, yeah, I've seen them. It's no big deal. Like it's not something I talk about. And like it's kind of one of those things where like you read the room before you talk about it, only just because it would be like off, kind of like off color humor more so, like where it'd be like, oh, I got to make sure I talk. Like most people believe like they're out here that there is like a Sasquatch is real, but they just think the people that go find them are really weird. It's kind of an odd dynamic out here. There it is. I guess we both put it in our chat. It's in our Discord chat, guys, if you guys want to see it. But yeah,
you went to the Bigfoot Museum too in Santa
I did. I did. It was quite cool, man. It was definitely very similar because the guy was kind of like dying that was running the museum. Yeah. And he was definitely a guy that's he's seen it a couple times, and he said the first time he saw Bigfoot, like when he was like 9. Or a Sasquatch. He would just say it was a Sasquatch sighting. He doesn't. You don't just call every Sasquatch Bigfoot, by the way. It's kind of a normie thing. Shit. Yeah, it's super normie. Like you just like completely out yourself. It's like saying like how many points did the baseball team score? Like, it's like you just don't do that. Like but he said he was on like oxygen and everything, and there you could hear like the pump going. It was very Big Lebowski when they meet the writer in the Iron Lung, and he was just like he had the tacks all over the map where he had seen like a blue tack that was really big. That was like an encounter, face-to-face encounter. A white tack was like sounds, like possible sighting. Red one was seen from far away, and like I said, the blue one was like up close. And there were a lot of blue ones, like pretty close to where the actual museum was. Yeah. And he had said certain like utility company guys would just be like working, and they'd be up working on like a power pole, and he'd look down and you'd see like this like 9-foot tall Bigfoot, going around, and it was nuts, dude. Like and it would just be a guy, like he would be the guy you'd go talk to, because like you don't want to go to your corporate office at your company and be like, hey, report a hazard, maybe a near miss here.
It's a giant interdimensional ape that's following me around the website.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just I got to report it. It's you see something, say something kind of thing, and you don't want to do that. So they would go to this guy just to like be like, hey, am I tripping? And the guy's he's like, no, I literally run the Bigfoot Museum. Of course you're not tripping. Like I saw it, but he was this guy that was really like he wouldn't just talk to you about Bigfoot when you walked in. Like he wasn't one of those like, here's my pamphlet. Hey, Bigfoot, he would kind of just stare at his computer, and he was watching Bigfoot encounter sightings on like a loop on a computer. Just
Dude,
kind of
he's
like
so committed, so fucking committed to the bit.
Yeah.
But the reason he didn't want to talk to us is because he was scared of, he was kind of scared to get, not like clowned, but somebody would come in like as a bit. you know, like, oh, I'm gonna come in, fucking see this fucking Bigfoot museum, like, and we were like really nice. We were just like, hey, like, you know, what does this mean? He's like, oh, then he opens up, like, he's just like, yeah, I just hate how people like condescend when they come in here. They like condescend to me, like just being like, oh yeah, where have you seen one, you know, like, and then laughing to their buddies, like filming it, you know, for their like content and stuff. And then I throw away my tape recorder.
He has to feel you out, you know. Yeah, exactly. No, because when my aunt and I would go, and that's a special place because like when, you know, my aunt passed away, she was like, we were really close. And did you ever see her truck, Glenn? Her latest she had the Bigfoot truck. She was like coated in Bigfoot stickers. She was obsessed.
I sure didn't see that.
Yeah, so it was she had this white Dodge and like pickup, and it just had like tons of like Sasquatch stickers. People would stop in like grocery store parking lots and be like, yo, what's up with this, you know, kind of a thing. And then so she loved it. But yeah, you would go in and there'd be like some like dumbass like UCSC students there and like filtering out, and then you'd wait, and then he'd talk to you for like an hour and a half, you know, and just all about that. Once you knew you were a real one, you know.
He was. But then it's funny because like 5 minutes later, this guy comes in, like this like guy comes in, he's like, yeah, Bigfoot, and he like comes in, he's like all really excited and just like just completely sucks the air out of the room, and he's like taking like pictures in front of like the in the front. He keeps the tabloid kind of like Bigfoot stuff in the front. And then he keeps the real shit in the back, like, because he's like, if you're just in the front, you don't care. You can look at the like baby born to couple as it's a Sasquatch, you know, like those kind of tabloid covers. He keeps those. So that guy didn't even go past there, but he was really happy to see it. And like, you know, it goes off of donations and everything, and it's just right there off of Highway 9 in Felton, and it's a beautiful museum. But do we all like? I feel like a lot of us don't necessarily. I tend to think Bigfoot is an interdimensional traveler. I don't know but I don't know that everybody agrees.
I go both ways on it. I think there's different types of them. I do like tend to like lean towards like most of the sightings you'd see are they're probably actually just like a very intelligent creature that has been around for a long time, and they're really good at hiding, and they bury their dead, because that's like the first thing people always say. It's like, how come no one's found like a dead Bigfoot or like bones? It's like, dude, they settle in like extremely dense forested areas, and like they're very smart to communicate with each other. There's probably not that many of them. They all know each other. So like that's my first thing, but I also don't discount that there's something even further going on though. I mean, like, fuck, like that story we got from the last Coast to Coast episode, that dude called in and said, he had that guy just like appear out of nowhere who's kind of like a hairy dude. Like, I think there's something, I mean, that guy obviously probably wasn't a Bigfoot, but I could see there being ape-like creatures that like to manifest in the woods and then just disappear and shit. I totally buy that too. So I'm kind of like David. Like, I just believe like anything. If someone like sounds like legitimate, because I heard you say that once, David. Like, you just kind of just believe people. Like, you know, it's not a good way to go through life just thinking everyone's lying to you all the time. Well,
it's a lot less fun, and that's how I reconnected with my dad, because my dad's a big Bigfoot hunter.
Nice.
And he
a hunter, like he goes and actively tries to seek him.
He tries to find. Sick. And it's so funny too, because I'll text him. He's like going out. He's got his dogs in the back of his truck. He has a farm out in rural Oklahoma, and he'll go out. He'll be like, yeah, the boys, because I guess they have their own version of our Discord where they're like, this is where we need to go. So he'll go out, and I'll be like, the next I'll be like, so, and I'm not being a shit about this. I'm just saying, so what did you find? Did you find anything? He's like, we didn't find anything. He's like, but the dogs were scared. The dogs were real scared.
I mean, but it's true, because you can't academically study Bigfoot, right? Like, you can't. It's all on the job training, and like dogs have senses that we don't. So it's not like when you say, well, why hasn't anyone found one? When you're an archaeologist, like, is that in the syllabus at all? Like, when you go to college where they're like, we're gonna find Bigfoot and cryptids, like it'll be towards the end near the final.
Dude, I would have done like 12 years of school if that was the case. I would have been right there. There was a Bigfoot hunting degree. That shit would have been so sick.
A paranormal college. Are there any like paranormal accredited universities like that? Like a crazy celebrity could have started, you know? Like, I think that would be a really cool business venture.
That would be sick. I don't know.
There's stuff like that in Europe actually, but they're like super expensive. They're like new age colleges. Yeah, exactly. I know like DJ Spooky teaches at one of them. They're like, just like they're like in like tiny ass like mountain villages.
Your mom, you give your mom the bill for the tuition, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to school under DJ Spooky. that'll be $30,000."
I'll give her way more than that, probably.
But yeah, exactly. No, I'm the same way. But because we're gonna actually in a bit we're gonna play the follow-up encounter that that same guy from the Coast to Coast episode. He had another encounter just like last weekend or maybe the weekend before. I can't remember, but he's an Appalachian guy. Like he's out in the Appalachian Mountains, and like that is I would say, other than like maybe the Vegas, like Southern Nevada, Northern Arizona kind of desert, like I don't know that there's a more like paranormal part of like the country, to be honest, than that weird Appalachian Mountain thing. I don't know. It's weird. Everybody I know, even like normies who aren't like into aliens or anything, they're like, yeah, but something weird's here. You know, like something weird's here. I don't know where it came from, but like there's some weird shit that's happening here. I don't know.
I mean, just the amount of stories from West Virginia, like that came out like well before like the Mothman shit happened, are insane. Like, I mean, it's just like an endless well of stories. Like once people like start like looking into that shit, it just keeps going back and back. Like, I mean, there's fucking crazy stuff, dude. Like people in that area have like seen like, I was listening to an episode of Mysterious Universe recently, and they were talking about like there's some town, I think it was West Virginia, in like the late 1800s. Like, dude, like people said they were seeing like some like centaur creature jump with like a flaming head running around, jumping on like rooftops and shit. Damn. It's like just all sorts of like weird like cryptid sightings of like weird creatures that were only spotted once, but like a shit ton of people saw them, you know? That's like it's a really weird area.
You wouldn't even trip if you saw Bigfoot at that point. If you had seen the centaur guy, you'd just be like, that's Bigfoot. Wouldn't even, it'd be literally nothing. You'd just
be
like,
you and Bigfoot, the pointing meme. Like,
dude, Bigfoot would be trying to scare you, and then he'd look out of the corner of his eye and be like, fuck, you know? Hey. You'd be like, dude, no way. Like,
I think Peter Levendus started his Sinister Forces book in Ashland, Kentucky too, right? Like with the Ashland Mounds. Because that's where Charles Manson is from, and Levenda's doing this whole thing with the Sinister Forces book where he links everything bad that happened in the 20th century to Charles Manson as the focal point of it. Yeah. But he goes off and like he goes back to the Knights Templar and makes the connection, you know, through the bushes. And then Charles Manson's right there in the middle in Ashland, Kentucky, and he like sees him as this demonic entity that was possessed by something that is in those mounds. So yeah, Appalachia is a fucking. Have you ever met people from West Virginia?
Totally. My mom used to work for a long haul trucking company that was based out of there, but the end point was the Bay Area. They would like go just cross. And first off, completely different language. It's not even like when you talk to like a trucker from West Virginia, it's like Boomhauer, but like even more different. Like it's like Boomhauer is like somebody doing an impression of them almost like, but this guy, like my mom was just like, can you just email that to me? And then the email doesn't even make sense, you know? And then
email in Boomhauer speech.
Like, but the guy's like really smart and really good at his job and everything. It's not even like a dumb thing. It's just like, we don't speak. We're not from the same country, I don't believe. But yeah, those people are just, it's a different kind. It's like not it's the South, but like not. You know, I don't know. It's tough. I don't know how to describe it. I know we have like a decent amount of listeners that are from there and stuff, but like they seem cool. But like, I wonder if like I speak to them, maybe they're just like completely like just different. I don't know. But there's a lot of like early, you know, the way America was started was like all in that area. And I tend to think there's good and bad. Like there's stuff like Indrid Cold where everybody thinks that's bad, like the Indrid Cold thing. But I've read, you know, Visitors of Lanulos and stuff, and I'm like, no, he's sick as fuck. Like he's cool. Like I would love to see him. I mean, it's weird. The smile's weird, but also he's smiling. You know?
You're an Indrid Cold dude, right?
Yeah, you're like all-time favorite paranormal thing.
That's dope.
I love. No, it's great because you think it's bad because you watch like Mothman prophecies, and all he's doing is like letting you know some weird shit's about to happen. You know, it's like kind of this, and like he might show up at a weird spot. Like you'd be like you're at Denny's and you're like see a smiling guy outside. You're like, oh fuck, like this doesn't look great. But for the most part, you know, like the Visitors of Lanulos thing is crazy, where this guy just got like straight up visited by Indrid Cold, and taken into like just abducted, but it was like cool. And he just was like, oh yeah, this is tight. And then he realized they were speaking. I don't want to go super far into this because I want to get to the Bigfoot voicemail, but like he learned basically like what an advanced civilization is, and learned all the bad parts of like what they're doing now, like the maybe the not sustainable things that humans are doing now, stuff that they think is like progress, stuff that they think is, you know, innovation and things like that. And it's like, that's all he was doing was like warning him. But yeah, if you got abducted by a guy and he took you for a ride to a different planet, you might think he's a bad guy if you're not into that. You know, like it was like, I could see like, you know, my grandma would be like, nah, like I don't really want to do that, you know, but this guy was down. He loved it. He like he never stopped thinking about it forever. Like he wanted it forever. But like people just have this weird thing about it, like that anything paranormal is like bad. I don't think it's all good. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, I told my mushroom story of ego death that was really embarrassing, but like that was probably good that it happened. You know what I mean? It just sucked right then and there. You know,
right,
like,
right. That's all. That's all that stuff you have to go through the crucible and the difficult part in order to get to the enlightenment. I do like the idea of Indrid Cold's friends getting together and being like, dude, buddy, the smile, like we gotta work on that. He's just like in front of a mirror and he's like trying to figure out like, that is what it looks like.
It's not a natural thing for us. That's not a natural thing for us up here. Yeah, we speak like, I know you think that's what they do when they're happy, but it's not. Like the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We're gonna get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode. But yeah, I want to get into this voicemail that we got because it is from our friend. I'm not going to say his name, but if you're on the premium feed, the last episode we did with Scott, Coast to Coast Volume 3, it was easily like the trippiest story from there. But like this guy, I tend to think sometimes people do get like targeted, and not to scare the guy, because I don't necessarily think he's in danger or anything, but like I do think these people are like, hey, remember that guy's house? Like, it's in our address now. It's like giving your number to, like, you know, Bernie Sanders or something. And then all of a sudden, you know, like a $20 donation to Bernie Sanders, and all of a sudden John Kerry is emailing you. You know what I mean? Like it's so it's just, I tend to think it tends to be like subscribing to a mailing list that doesn't that you don't know exactly the extent of. So I'm going to play the voicemail here. Sorry if it comes in a little loud. I don't know, but we'll see.
Hey, it's me again. I just had another experience that I kind of wish I wouldn't have had. So, me and my girlfriend were out on our back porch last night. It was storming and we were watching a storm, and lightning and thunder and raining, and it's pretty loud. And we're sitting here enjoying the night, and then all of a sudden it gets like dead quiet, and both of us, we have our dog out here too, and both of us look at each other and go, something's off. Like something has just changed. It was lightning and thundering, and now it's completely dead silent. And I yell at my dog to come back. And as soon as I do, like in the far corner of my backyard, we got like about an acre backyard. And in the far corner of the backyard, we hear very clear human laughing. And so my girlfriend grabs the dog, goes inside, and I run out to where it was because I'm a moron, and I yell, "Who the fuck is out here?" And it laughs again, and then I hear something sprinting through the field, but like the steps had to have been 5, 10 like way too far apart. It was like a deer leaping or something like that, but I know it wasn't. Well, there's this week's Appalachian horror story. Hope I don't call back soon.
Yeah.
He sounds shook, dude.
Damn.
I couldn't understand a thing he was saying. Is that Appalachian thing? Personally, did you guys think of anything? No, I'm just kidding. no. That's no, and in the one he sent too, you could hear that's why I believe people, because I'm sorry, like on the off chance that somebody's just this amazing actor working on doing method acting right now and just calling into a podcast they listen to tell fake paranormal stories, which I'm still down for, do it. But I'm pretty sure this dude is just living in a hotbed of it. And like, I honestly even think, look at like the episode we did with Joe Gallenberger, like his stuff is like in Monroe Institutes in Virginia, and I don't know how, the proximity of all that with all it, but just that whole part of the country, like, dude, like, yeah, I think maybe a spoon might bend just a tad bit easier out there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like a hotbed for all that stuff. But I'd be tripping out, dude. Like, I definitely wouldn't chase after a Bigfoot. Would you guys chase? I wouldn't.
No.
Yeah, I would.
I'd
be willing. I'm scared of them in a way, because I do think they'd probably kill you, but I'd be too curious. I mean, I wouldn't be able to miss my shot to get a picture or something, though it'd probably murder me.
Wouldn't chase after an Appalachian one. I'd chase after one in the Pacific Northwest probably. They seem a bit more chill than
wearing
like
flannel and shit. Yeah,
that's a great distinction. Yeah.
Well,
Santa Cruz, I'm there. I'm climbing the tree.
Yeah, all day. I'd be like, I went to high school with you, I think. Yeah. Like, I fucking know you. Yeah, I don't know. We have a common ancestor, I think. But no, exactly. So the Appalachian ones, do you think that's like the dark side?
Oh, they're violent. They're like, because I've heard different stories from like the red-haired ones, black-haired ones, and like the brownish, like Pacific Northwest ones. And apparently the red-haired ones in Appalachia are pretty freaking mean.
It's a Bigfoot racism here.
I'm just gonna get the Steve Saylor of Bigfoot. Everyone's like, oh, is he being racist? Oh, those are all cryptid and Bigfoot. Okay, cook. You know what I mean? Like, do your thing. Yeah, no, I've never even thought about that. And Aidan, have you ever had anything like this happen? Like, how'd you even? I kind of know these guys' stories about how they got into this kind of stuff. I want to know how you got into like just any of this stuff, because you're into like ancient civilization stuff too. But I just in general, how'd you decide that like maybe what the party line is on anything is kind of bullshit?
What was that? There was that one cryptid show on Animal Planet when I was younger, and honestly, it was probably something like that. And then just always having an interest in like Bigfoot and Chupacabra, any of those like weird cryptids. And then honestly, the Atlantis one is weird. I don't remember when I first started having a thing with Atlantis, but it's just been a constant. And my uncle turned me on to Graham Hancock, maybe like good few years ago now. And then after that, it's just been lots of reading.
What's your favorite Graham Hancock rabbit hole? Like what you think where he's on point the most?
I love the Mars stuff, because I think there's something to like us and Mars. There's
what is that?
Well, like there's been research about like the xenon. One like certain isotope of xenon is in crazy high levels in the atmosphere, and it's only found after like nuclear explosions and stuff, and they're found in the two regions where there are the ruins on Mars, like Cydonia, and there's like one other region that would be on like the other side of the lake. But there's just the geometry of Mars and how actually planned out it all seems. Our circadian rhythm lines up more with Mars. There's weird like Mayan myths about like weird like hieroglyphs of things that look like flying machines, and then there's legends of them and their gods being on a different place. There's Nibiru. There's just too many things that make me think that we haven't always been stuck to this one planet, and like we aren't right now, but they
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I'm just throwing this out there. I've been thinking about this. Aidan and Scott, whoever else, too. If you guys are down, I really want to do the Bob's Red Pill Mars series, but something inside me is holding. I'm like, I don't know quite enough about it, and I don't feel confident enough to like. Maybe we could do a little collab and put that out as like a together kind of thing. If you're down,
I'm down.
Yeah, and then we'll just match it up and do a super cut because like I don't think I could do it justice right now, just myself, but I also want to get it out there. So, yeah.
Well, there's also the remote viewing that the CIA did, where they remote viewed Mars, and the viewers were saying that there's ruins everywhere, there's broken buildings, and then they had them remote view a cavern that was underneath all these ruins, and they found these 7 to 10 foot tall, super weird grayish pale beings, and then they felt the attention of these beings turned to them, and they got shoved right back to Earth.
Totally.
So there's just there's something going on there. And there's the Russians. They had a mission, not a mission, but an unmanned probe go by Phobos, and at 3 of them, and every time they approached, it cut off, disappeared. And we don't do anything with Phobos, and there's weird harmonics with it that it doesn't seem as natural as they say it is. So there's just shit weird with Mars.
Yeah.
Well, to go back to that remote viewing story, I can't remember the name of the guy who did that. He was that army guy, but
Lynn Buchanan.
He was a military. He was an army officer, but then he got recruited by the CIA, I believe, for their remote viewing experiments. And so he went on coast to coast in the mid to late 90s and told that story about how they didn't tell him he was there, because they would do that thing where they just put cards in front of you with info on it, and you'd guess what area of the Earth is. Usually just pick a name of a town or a region or something like that. And there was one that said, one of the cards said Mars 1 million years ago.
Yeah.
And then he obviously had no idea what was on the card. He just said I see these giant people walking around and all this shit. And so that story was kind of infamous ever since that coast to coast appearance. But no one really knew if he was telling the truth or if he just made that up until not that long ago, when actually those remote viewing experiments, a lot of the documents from that got declassified, and that's actually in there.
Yeah.
It's proven that experiment actually did happen. You can't argue against it. So I'm sure so many people must have been calling him a liar for 20 years too.
Yeah.
And multiple viewers did the same thing. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, you can look it up on CIA.gov. It's right there. And just one quick thing that you guys are talking about with these timelines, right? With the million years ago. And whenever people bring up ancient civilizations and the fact that, history as we know it started 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. And before that, for the million years of our existence, we were just kind of fucking around and doing whatever. I'm almost okay with that. And then a normie website completely pushed me over the edge, because the other day I was wondering, how long have human beings been human beings the way we are now? And I had always put it at 1 million. And dude, National Geographic says actually it's between 5 and 6 million. And when I saw that, I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way that people like us have existed for 5 million years and we just didn't do anything. Nobody had the idea to build a wheel or to make a spaceship, and not even counting, the tall, 7-foot gray Martian aliens. So to me, it all seems super plausible.
Yeah, and on an even more abstract level, did you guys hear the most recent thing? The scientists are like, "Oh yeah, the universe is actually twice as old as we thought." Did you hear this shit? They're we thought it was 14. We thought it was 14 billion. Now it's 28, and it's bro, okay, you just decide. It's
God, I wish I could be that wrong about that. I wish I could keep have a good high paying job and just be my bad, it's twice as much. Actually, I just, my bad, not even close.
Well, it's because they get the James Webb telescope. It has to do with them being able to see longer and longer light photons, right? Sure. Which means that it's stretched out further and further. But on the tip of just being wrong all the time, it's really funny because whenever somebody who's really into Bigfoot, or for a more recent example, I listened to the Stephen C. Meyer Joe Rogan episode.
Amazing.
He's an intelligent design dude, but he's legit. He's got really smart arguments for why intelligent design is a thing, which is like, if everything is the same, why wouldn't it make sense that something intelligent would create these systems that can't shift even a little bit or everything collapses?
Yeah, and then when everything's different, you have to completely strip the code and make a new code. It's like it all. He was one of those guys. I want you to get back to your point, but what he'd said was like, every debate he got into, everybody thought he was like some Westboro Baptist Church guy, and then he would just drop like encyclopedic knowledge on everything. And he's one of those guys where it's like, Rogan would have asked him a question, Rogan would just like expand on this. And he goes, not really an expert in this field, but then 10 minutes later, a point, like just information upon information, like just amazing stuff. But yeah, anyways, back to what you were saying, because that episode was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was super fire. I was actually a little annoyed with Rogan at sometimes because he had some of the Reddit atheist
very Reddit
rebuttal stuff. And so I went to Reddit because I was curious, and it's all the shit that you would expect. It's like, well, this guy is wrong because he's not a scientist, and this isn't science. Intelligent design is not science. And he brings that up in the episode. He's like, so I'm not allowed to say anything about this because it's not science, but like I'm showing you that it clearly is at least a subset or a variation on science, and you can just take that argument out of its context and apply it to any paranormal phenomena at all and say, at this point in 2023, it's the same as COVID, same as paranormal, all this shit. The other side is no longer arguing anything. They reached this point, and I think it happened it happened before Trump. It was like 10 or 15 years ago where they just decided, we're not arguing this stuff anymore because this shit is settled. And it's not science, and it's not real. And it's like, well, cry about it, because you can bend spoons, and there were Martians on Mars a million years ago, and there's probably a Bigfoot in your backyard right now beating off while he's watching you shower. So
100%. Like, it's just funny to me how these people, it's so ironic. People. I feel a lot of people become doctors or become scientists or academics because they are scared of being wrong. They want to be right. They want to be, and that's a way of insulating yourself.
A trump card. They want to you get a built-in trump card.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a beautiful, perfect way to put it. Yeah. And it's so funny how they're going to be wrong on everything. They're going to be like, they're going to be wrong. Like, they're going to be like, these guys, because like the midwits or whatever are going to be like, oh, you can bend spoons. Cool. Let's try it. And then they'll fucking do it. Right. Because they have no resistance to it, Yeah. And it's like, so it's like, it's going to be like, it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson and that whole ilk are going to be the last to all of this shit. And then it's going to happen, and they're going to be some like convoluted, well, we couldn't have known, or some bullshit.
Right, of course.
But check it out, dude. On the midwit tip and being able to experiment, I listened to your Joe Gallenberger episode, and I went and bought Liquid Luck, and I did the Liquid Luck thing. And I swear to fucking God, dude, 2 days later, I got a text message from an employer, not an email, but a text message who was like, do you want to come work at this? After I've been looking for a job for like a year and a half. Dude, it's insane.
Man, I'm committed to, I'm so glad to thank you for that. I'm committed to listening to that shit multiple nights a week at least, dude. Cause it's like, cause I did it for a few times because we had him on a couple months after I found that meditation and found out about him and stuff. And I listened to it a few times, and some crazy stuff happened to me. Like a crazy little windfall or something right when I needed it, where I was like,
I know, it's so weird, isn't it?
It's so fucking crazy. And then I stopped, and then I was like, and went back to the old vibe, which is like, isn't bad, but it isn't fucking great, incredible, and stellar, and I'm like, I'm really trying to get to that point, so I'm like, no, I need to actually dig in and do some like permanent, like get under the hood and like really of my subconscious, and like, I want to be in that state. And like, I think maybe you thought so too, Glenn. I don't know, but like, by listening to hearing him talk and listening to him, you could tell he's very serious. He puts in the work of like
seriously
putting in that love vibe of trying to like live in that state.
Yeah.
Permanent way.
Yeah. It wasn't just like, here's what you need to do. He's like, no, bro, before you even touch the spoon, you need to do this. Like, it was very like old, like martial arts, like your instructor or something like that, where it's like, you'll pick up like your little bamboo stick and he's like, what the fuck, dude, put that away. We're not even there yet. That's what it felt like. But speaking on the tip of just like science being wrong, like, I think with what Graham Hancock talks about, and so many other people talk about the ancient civilizations, how we may have had advanced. Well, it looks like we definitely did have advanced civilizations in the past. That we haven't just been on this upward trajectory of progress. Like maybe we haven't. It's crashed. It's gone back up. It's definitely cyclical, more cyclical than we think. But what that does is not only like in the sense like, yeah, it might basically call a lot of people who have made a lot of money and sold a lot of books from the party line department that if they are proven wrong, it's like we don't listen to you. Meanwhile, I can bend a spoon. So what the fuck am I clocking into work the next day for? If I bend a spoon, I am not clocking into work the next day. Like it's just not happening. I'm going to do something else. Like it's just like there is a reason to keep this shit away from people. Always be like, why would people not want to know that? It's like, dude, if I will say this, bro, if I was running a country, I'm not sure I want everyone to know they can bend a spoon. Like straight up. Because I'm like, I'm not really running the country at that point. They'll bend me.
I mean, dude, it's like, so the Monroe Institute, I mean, if you look into them just a little bit, everything they do seems very, very legit because they've been doing this shit since the 1970s. And like, it's pretty insane that like, because our society is run by like rich midwits that no one's willing to fund something like this, but like, it sucks that there's like not little mini Monroe Institutes in every major city where you can go and learn this shit. Because, dude, I mean, I would fucking kill one day. I probably will at some point if I can fucking swing it because it's not even that expensive. But like, they have this week-long retreats and you can stay there. They teach you everything, like everything. Like, I mean, like, dude, like how to like, you know, fucking project yourself to other dimensions and shit. And they've been teaching this stuff for a long time. And I've been like trying to look it up, and like, dude, like people aren't even like trying to do exposés, like debunking them or anything like that. Because like I think this shit is so real. Freaks people who actually like skeptical people who look into it probably get fucking freaked out. Like, okay, I'm not even touching this shit. Right, it's too real
or demonic.
It's gonna destroy their whole fucking worldview if they. Go
dude,
down.
I would fucking kill though. If there's like some place like in St. Louis, I could go on weekends and just like take like do like a 2-month course or something like that. And like, because like I don't want to learn this shit online. I want to do it in person. With someone. You know what I mean? Like God, like it seems like there's so much like untapped potential out there. But like you said though, it's like this shit gets too big, like because obviously all of that Monroe Institute shit could be used for evil.
Dude, I think I would fucking dominate some pyrokinesis if I could do the flame in the hand thing. That would be so sick. And then I'm walking down the street late at night. Some rough people are trying to mess with me, trying to steal my shit. Flame hand, dude.
Yeah, I mean, dude, just straight up, like it's not beneficial for the average person to see beyond like a spreadsheet. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to work every day. I know it's like that's like Fight Club level type intellect, but it's true, right? Like it's true in a sense.
Well,
like
dude, Fight Club is right.
Yeah, it is right. I just just because something becomes like Reddit, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Like it just makes it Reddit. But yeah, it's just at the end of the day, like. It still checks out. I mean, even more so. But like, yeah, exactly. Like the Monroe Institute. If you guys are listening, maybe you guys are. If you guys are listening, go ahead and open like Hell's Angels type chapters across the country. It would be pretty sick.
I got the Oklahoma City one for sure.
The meme of all like the meme of like the Pepes walking out into the stadium, like me and the fellas headed to the Monroe Institute. That's like we'll just buy them out. Like when cement companies want to pour like for a whole hotel floor, the cement company's booked for the day with one company. That's us, RC. Just going into the Monroe Institute. It would be so sick.
Also, but, I mean, I'm sure all 5 of us would want to work for them. Like, just fucking fly us out, dude. I'll be your employee.
And it's crazy. So Monroe, he's like a Steve Kirsch dude. He was like a rich, like billionaire guy, like multi-millionaire guy that just was like, fuck it, I'm doing this now, and he's like obviously Kirsch is like with the vaccines and stuff. But yeah, like Robert Monroe is just like a radio like producer back when radio was like Netflix, or whatever, right? And
when it was king, it was king.
And so he would just clock in as CEO every day, and then at night just be doing these insane out of body experiences before anyone even knew about,
How sick, how sick, dude. And then also like you have, I mean, what do you guys think about that? Because look, anytime you see some of this paranormal stuff, it's easy to be like eccentric billionaire scamming everybody, right? You could, as a skeptic, you could go back. I hate even using the term skeptic for something that like isn't accepted by anything. Like I hate the like Michael Shermer or whatever that guy. What's that guy's name? Michael.
That's his name.
Yeah, that guy. I hate when like that's a skeptic. It's like, no, you're lame. You're like an employee of this company that just shuts shit down. But the skepticism of like, okay, even with Art Bell, right, and Area 2000, his old show and everything, it's like Robert Bigelow, right, eccentric billionaire guy, like all that stuff. Like, what do you guys think about that? Does that give you guys any pause? Because I think it's cool. I think that's the best way to be a billionaire, is either own a sports team or do that. Just do paranormal stuff.
Oh, it's
No, I'm not part of
absolutely
the,
the best way to be one.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not
that's
part of
exactly what
like
they
the
should do.
billionaires are evil. You know, all billionaires are bad and they had to kill people to make that money. I'm like, yeah, but they're fucking doing ESP, man. So I mean,
yeah. Well,
that seems
who's
pretty tight.
Howard Hughes, right? Is he was wasn't he famous for that quote of like, because he was really into sci and predicting markets and trends and stuff like that, and
didn't work famously.
Exactly. No, what is someone is saying like it was talking about like astrology or like psychic power, and someone's like, do millionaires do that? He's like, millionaires don't do it, but billionaires do. And it's just like a mic drop. Yeah, exactly. Like one of those things,
that's so hard.
Yeah, it's like facts though. Yeah, but
I know people hate to see like people want this like sort of shame that they have, like that you have to go up to, like where it's like, I could have it, but like like the whole like so could you thing is where people become like a scam artist. But it's like, hey man, like me, look, my ultimate goal is not to be a billionaire. No, millionaire, hey, you know, we're talking, but the whole like billionaire thing, I don't need to get to that point. But yeah, like to me, I hate when somebody, when you get to like these dissident, you know, spaces and stuff, and they're all like, yeah, well, I pointed, therefore this is horse shit because a billionaire is involved. It's like, well, then life is horse shit. Log off, don't do anything for the rest of your life, because everything that seems to be working, that's how I find out if things work, is if a billionaire is making money off of them. So it's usually the other way around. It's like, I don't think they have these bad investments that they just hold on to for so long. Like they're not, you know, people watch way too much Succession, you know what I mean, for that, like to be thinking like, oh, they just get lucky a couple times. It's like, nah, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they walk into their like seed money, like sometimes. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but like, you know, you can blow that fast unless you liquid luck, you know, like exactly. Something like that.
Trump's got the liquid luck with his
dude. What if he what if he manifested 2016? Because that shit was psychedelic as fuck. Like how if you step back to what happened and you don't take, which they obviously literally said Russiagate was fake. People missed that a couple weeks ago. There was the whole Senate hearing of just like this guy being like, yeah, I just did like all this research and it's actually completely fake. The Russiagate thing. It's like a completely fake Hillary Clinton thing. And they were like, do you love your country? And he's like, yeah, no, that's why I wanted to find out if this was real, and it's not. And and he has like just document and didn't make the news at all, like, or did, but it was just kind of like with a tone, like a CNN tone of like, actually that was fake. This whole thing, we haven't it's not the final thing yet, guys. That's just his argument. Like, you know, that was what they were saying. But like, dude, 2016 was insane, because when Brad Kelly said that maybe the world did end in 2012, that really messed with me a little bit, because like something did. Like something weird ended in 2012, or at least in 2010, 2012 area. Like something culturally or just something spiritually ended in 2012. But like 2016, I think that was like somebody buying low on society and just manifesting their way into a huge gain, which puts you in the White House. And like, I don't know. I'm not saying Trump is into parapsychology, but like, how else do you explain how that happened? That's crazy.
Well, I think that if you're a spiritual person, I think we're all spiritual people here. That's a broad term. You can't look at like while it was happening, I didn't really fully understand what was happening, but I was like, okay, this is important, and it's probably not all bad. You know, everyone was freaking out. Obviously, like that was when I was like voting for Bernie in the primaries and shit. And I remember it was a big riff with my friends when everyone was freaking out, and I'm like, guys, chill the fuck out. Like this isn't a big deal. Like all this is fake anyway. So it's like, I think it's like part of, if you are just that kind of vibe of like timelines and like Mayan predictions and shit, it's like that was a turning point, you know, and just utilize it as such, you know, in your own life. And I don't know, it was a big turning point for me in my life personally, you know, regardless of politics and everything. Did you guys, was your life crazy during that time too? Like, you know, on that?
Totally.
Yeah. It was crazy. I think Charles Fort, who's a big hero of mine, probably a hero of a lot of you guys, the 40 times and shit like that. He used to break eras up into dominance. So he would call it, you know, I think the last one we were in was the dominant of science. And I want to say pinpointed 2012 as the entry into what he called the dominant of wider inclusions, which is just taking a lot of this stuff and people who are able to synthesize, science and magic, like spirituality and materialism, are going to do really well. And so that's when, so I think things did get weirder. I mean, about half of my paranormal experiences in my life happened after 2012, which is not the halfway point of my life so far. So yeah, it definitely, everything has felt surreal until, I don't know if you guys feel this way too, until kind of right now. It almost feels like right now everything is back to normal.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that COVID is a big blind spot where we're past, like when you get, it's kind of like the eye of the hurricane, but in the other direction where we're out of it, but we still haven't really processed what we went through, and I don't know. I'd love to do some remote viewing on that shit and just like what's really going down. Yeah. Do you think, okay, here's a question. I know, okay, sorry if this is too off topic. I know, Glenn, you wanted to talk about, I really like what you sent earlier.
I do. Yeah. You're talking about the communication thing?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was kind of on that. Okay. So I was in a discussion with someone about remote viewing and they're kind of like, we need the data. We need rigorous, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, first of all, it's already been done. The military is very rigorous with this shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. But this is just more broadly. I want to know what you guys think about. I was kind of like, you just got to do it yourself and you'll know whether it's fake or not. You'll know, obviously we can fool ourselves, but I've done RV sessions. I'm not a pro where it's just like so, and Glenn's seen them too, where it's just so accurate and it doesn't happen every time. It happens maybe 1 out of every 10 times where it's just like,
when you predicted your sexuality.
Exactly. Yeah. Super gay, dude. It's just fucking, it's like nailed it, dude. It's like,
a snowman. Let me tell you that.
Yeah. But I hate this idea of trying to prove shit rigorously because it's almost like you have to take a little leap into the unknown, and with any of this stuff, not just RV, but you kind of have to. It's a subjective experience kind of a thing. And you can have it collectively and you can prove it, with science and stuff. But I think that kind of destroys the point. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think I first off, you're getting teams together. So if you're interested in this,
that's true.
Contact the pod because we want to if you're on YouTube, put a comment or something. We'll find you. We'll get you in there. You're doing teams for remote viewing. You're probably going to use the NFL season as kind of a good scheduled event to do that. But who knows where it's going to go, right? But yeah, no, it's just this like. There's something there for sure. And like even in 2016, I was just a normie, like sports fan, like baseline, maybe some like left leaning politics, but like couldn't go toe to toe arguing with anyone what I actually believed. And I fought there was a vibe shift, but I kind of fought it, which I tend to resist a lot of I'm one of those guys, like if I saw something paranormal even 4 years ago, I'd be like, nope. Didn't happen. I would be that guy. I would be my own skeptic. And I just kind of started like taking what has been given to me, like no matter what it is. I've just kind of been, and a lot of that's probably just the rishi of just realizing like who I am. I've been doing the Ram Dass guided meditations. He has one called Sit Around the Fire that I absolutely love. Part of that is basically like you're not who you're not who you think you are. But that's fine, basically. It's kind of just stuff like that because I come from one of those families where there was an idea of what I should have been, and I then adopted that because I think that's what I'm supposed to be. But that led to in 2016, I was still trying to become that person for a lot of time. But like when I just started kind of accepting what was happening, and it's not giving up, it's actually quite the opposite. It's just you're finally able to like actually progress and stuff. And part of that is like, now in turn, I'm more receptive to things like remote viewing because that it just kind of accepting who you are as a person and not trying to live life for other people. Like that is like a weird paranormal experience in itself. Like it is odd. Like I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but like that's. I don't even know if that answers the remote viewing question, but it makes more sense to me, like at this point now than it would have.
No, I get what you're saying, Glenn, because like the number one like motivation for people, I think, is social approval. And so people like that's the main reason why no one's going to try this shit, even though like you could tell them like, oh, it'll only take you like 20 minutes to try it out yourself. And they'll still like just file it away. Be like, well, no, because people think I'm weird or whatever. That's really ultimately what everything boils down to. I mean, dude, like, there's people who are looking down on us right now for talking about this shit. Like, people listening to the show right now. You know what I mean? Like, like, you really just can't give a shit, you know? And most people can never reach that point in their life where they can just stop giving a shit about what other people think, which is kind of pathetic, especially if you're a man, like in your 30s, you know? But I mean,
here, dude. Holy shit! Yes, dude. Yeah,
yeah. That's very true. Very true. And no, like, and that I want to ask Aidan about this too, but in a framing it in a different way, I guess. Like, there were people in the past, I think, that achieved this way before us, right? Because I think now, if you ask people like Sam Harris types, or not to project anything onto him, but I have a feeling I understand what he would think about this. But you think every single day we have the chance to get smarter, right? Like in a sense, like as a society, like as a new technology comes out, we then become smarter with it. We have more access to everything. We have the internet. We have all these things. But I tend to think, you know, people in the past that thought, you know, when past societies are built to us as this guy with a stone, you know what I mean, was just banging it and just like screaming and then doing cave paintings. Like, now we're here. You could say we're all in this progression. But I think people were just way more with what I was talking about. They were just happy with who they were, or just like were understood their role. And that their only competition was themselves and like their family, like actually surviving in the world. Whereas now like, what do you think people think their competition is? It's anonymous Twitter accounts. It's all these things now. Like, I consider that a regression, but people like the Sam Harris types would be like, well, that's because we're in the, you know, marketplace of ideas and these big, you know, huge, like we're in the ocean now rather than a small pond of like a community. So it's like now that tends to be sold as progress. But like, Aidan, you really go on like past societies. I mean, you're one of the few people I've seen do like the kind of the Graham Hancock ancient civilization stuff. And now you were on the very first Gain of Fiction episode, which I think some people might not be knowing that you were on the Jurassic Park episode. We didn't get fully into the ancient civilization stuff because we were talking about a brilliant Michael Crichton novel and genetic engineering. But I want to know, like, how advanced did they get, do you think? Like, how, like more than us now, or did we just kind of get to our level and kind of cataclysm back? And is it just constantly a loop?
It's constantly a loop, and I think that they've probably got way, way farther than we've got. Like, I mean, I think that at one point, like the asteroid belt, it wasn't an asteroid belt, and like it had to be destroyed by some sort of technology, and like something had to get rid of the atmosphere on Mars. And I think that some of the construction stuff in like the pyramids, or the Mother's Stone at Baalbek, there's some of these huge obelisks in Egypt that are just multi-hundred tons that we would have difficulty today lifting with our cranes. That some technology had to do that, and it's vastly ahead of what we have now, and it probably was something different. But I think that like technology itself, they viewed it as something else. Like, people at like past times were less in touch with, less rooted in this material, and because of that probably had more of a realization as to why they came down here. And so the technology was there, and they used that to like aid their soul progress, aid the reason why they came down and like incarnated here, not just to vacuum shit easier. Like, it wasn't, the technology was for a vastly different purpose than what we use it now. And because
not for convenience, right? Not for convenience. Mm-hmm.
Not for like super convenience, but I mean enough to have like clean water and like energy just kind of in the air that they didn't have to go burn coal for. Like, it was just used for a different thing, and because of that, I think that it was able to get farther because it didn't turn into like shackles of control like the way that we use it now, because we just use it to make things easier without, I don't know, having a understanding or like that spiritual development to go with the material development.
Yeah, the sewage systems are a big thing with that. Like, you can look in the past, like we tend to think, I mean, especially if you've read like Dissolving Illusions, things like that, but that's during the Industrial Revolution, right? When we decided that like It was just about factories and not necessarily infrastructure for people to live in. But in the way before that, I mean, there's plenty of, and you'll have to help me out with some of the specifics here, but like there were societies that had their own like straight up like sewage. Maybe they weren't the best, but like it was, they understood the idea of what needs to happen to waste and things like that.
One of the most fascinating for me is like a Bronze Age culture. It was was it the Indus River Valley? It was Mohenjo-Daro was one of like the cities, and it was super like well planned out with like grid streets. They had plumbing, and this city it has like liquefied bricks, and it has radioactive corpses, and this is a Bronze Age city. So like, what's going on here? And then you go and listen to like Vedic texts, and they talk about the Vimanas, and they talk about these weapons that were given from the gods to Indra, or to these demigods of Indian myth, that they were used, that it was as bright as 10,000 suns, and people went into the river after to wash themselves off. And it just sounds more advanced, and it sounds like they had more of a know-how than what we think that they did.
Yeah,
sure.
And I think there's a huge reason to cover that up. Not only does it just completely throw a school curriculum of history out of the window, essentially, of like world history, like that, you'd have to reshape that. You'd have to re-educate all sorts of people on a completely different timeline. But also just the fact that like I don't know that I necessarily run out and buy the newest technology all the time, right? Like the average income person, who will upgrade every iPhone, who will upgrade everything, because it's like, it's not like it's just this linear kind of upward climb of all this stuff. Because if that's how it's being sold to you, you're like, cool, the next latest technology takes me that much higher, right? And of course, like what we do is we bypass any spirituality in our innovation. So our innovation can maybe cause things like your headphones to connect to your phone and stuff in this probably harmful way, I would think, in a sense, to connect to your phone. But like, there probably was a better way to do that in a past society. I mean, like you said, how do you build the pyramids? How do you build like ancient Egypt? And like people admit that ancient Egyptians are smart. Every single person knows that. But like they never actually get to the conclusion. It's like, why? Like why were, and it's not even just them, but I mean, that's the one that you're like allowed to know about, was the smart culture back then. But like everyone's just like, yeah, it was just an anomaly. It was just that one society of people that got wiped out eventually. I don't know.
Well, also, I don't know about you guys, but did you guys really learn anything about the Sumerians or the Babylonians back when you were a kid in school?
No.
Okay, dude, like, I mean, it's like basically the most ancient civilizations on record. Their entire like mythology was like a fucking science fiction story involving aliens from space. Like, I mean, it's like a true thing. You say like bring up Anunnaki to like the average person who might have heard that before, they'll think you're fucking weird as shit. I'm like, well, dude, like the most like ancient civilization on Earth believed in aliens from space coming down here and doing all sorts of shit. Like, I mean, I do think like shows like Ancient Aliens and stuff do exist just to make us all sound stupid for talking about this stuff.
To be boring too. Like,
because like I've never even watched that because it just looks so stupid. I'm into all that shit too, obviously.
No, but but then you ever talk to like a normie and you're like, hey, this crazy thing about Mars, and they're like, oh, you're like an Ancient Aliens guy, and you're like, fuck, dude. You ever
exactly.
It's like,
that's exactly what it is, dude.
I hate that shit, dude. It's
I mean,
right, but still,
same with any of the shows on TV about cryptids and stuff. Like I know, Aidan, you were into that Animal Planet show when you were a kid, but all of that stuff like fucks us over in the long run. Like, dude, if you guys try telling like a normal person that you're into Bigfoot, they think you're. I mean, maybe it's different for you in the Bay Area.
A little bit different, but
yeah. Like, dude, like my sister is about as normie as you get. And like I like told her like 6 months ago that I'm into Sasquatch. She just like looked at me like I'm the most like retarded person on earth. And I'm like, well, I know more about it than you do. Okay.
Yeah. What do you? Well, I'm sorry. And two, what are normies into nowadays? No, literally the dumbest shit. Like it's not. They're not, and look, maybe perhaps there's a little bliss in not having these complex hobbies and like things that you're into. I know some people that are just like, I just rewatched Step Brothers this weekend. You're like, that's probably cool. That's probably not a terrible way to live as long as you don't one day just crack from rewatching Richard Jenkins talk to John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, and maybe one day that just stops becoming funny to you. But like for the most part, like there probably is better to like live life on Madden rookie mode like that and just coast through it. It's as long as you're materially successful, like you'll probably be okay till you're on like your deathbed and start seeing things that maybe you didn't live the way that you wanted to live. But for like for this, if you're one of these people, and our audience is not a paranormal audience, not yet. We're psyoping them a little bit, but if you're like a skeptic on it, like I'll say this: like once you see something, or even just know something, I still haven't really seen a whole lot, but once you know something, it's tough to unknow it. Like it's tough to look at things a different way. Like even just knowing that someone bent a spoon with their mind. Again, that's on YouTube, so that's on our just 2 episodes ago. There was a guy talking about once you know that that's possible, it's pretty tough to just like go back to normal, and that's why you see so many people so passionate about this. Yeah,
it's a rabbit hole.
It's a rabbit hole, dude. It's a rabbit hole. But 2 more things I want to talk about. Antarctica. I was watching some stuff about Antarctica. There's a million different, I don't even think that like, I think there's a lot of people that from like normie sides might just think everybody, you either believe what they believe, which is Antarctica is just really fucking cold, man. Chill out. But then also that it's, the other side is like united in what they believe. But there's a lot of people that have like, some people are just like CIA military mode where they're like, oh, it's all just like CIA military stuff going on there. Some people think there were actual ancient societies there. And then some people think it's just straight up aliens. I kind of think that's where the aliens are. Personally, perhaps the ancient societies too. I don't believe that's mutually exclusive. But what do you guys know about Antarctica?
I think the Nazis are into it for a reason.
They don't just waste time at like look. Do I agree with the Nazis? Absolutely not. That depends on some of the listeners. What some of the people that have listened to our show, you might say otherwise. But I don't agree. However, they're like when somebody like that essentially like dominates a whole part of the world and does all this stuff for even a short period of time, like the pathway they got to take there, like the stuff they were into, like there's probably something there. You know what I mean?
They
like
were a very efficient organization. Let's put it that way.
Well,
and they spent a lot of money on Antarctica too. A lot.
Dude, can you imagine if you just didn't know? If you didn't know, like if you were just like, because like the best psyops work when like people know only what they have to know, right? Like that means you don't have to pay certain people to like hush about a lot of stuff. But like, you imagine if it was just like a German guy comes to your door and it's like, hey, like UFO guy, you're the UFO guy of the village, therefore I'm coming to you first. Like, I just want you to like Antarctica, you're gonna like research all this like unprecedented paranormal stuff. And he's like, cool, sounds great. And then all of a sudden he like opens the paper and he's just like, they're doing what with this with this info?
That's exactly what happened though. Like
really?
Otto Rahn guy who
Mm-hmm.
I was telling you the other day, like Richard Stanley made a documentary about him in the early 2000s. It was, you can watch it like on Tubi, I think now. It was actually never officially finished, so it's kind of rough to watch, but it's like a good, like just for information. But like, dude, so he was like an amateur archaeologist who got really into like the Knights Templar and like the Holy Grail lore and shit like that. And he started fucking around in France, just like doing his own little expeditions. And so once the Nazis like found out about what he was doing, he had they found out his like case for like looking for all these like weird artifacts and shit. They started pumping money at him, but the only way they could justify pumping money at him was to make him an officer. So he became an SS officer, even though he did not give a shit whatsoever about Nazi ideology. Had nothing to do with it. I think he was gay, actually, possibly, because they tried to like force him to like marry a woman, and he like freaked out. And
this is not what I thought it was going to be.
So yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like, I mean, it might sound like weird to like just bring up Nazis so much.
No, it's like, all they're a part of this. Mm-hmm.
Just because like someone was working for the Nazis doesn't mean they actually like, believed in any of this shit. It's just like they were the only people pumping money at them, and if you're in Europe, you can't really say no to them. You know what I mean? And so like, I mean, too. Then I go back to Antarctica though. Like all this shit, like the reason the Nazis were into Antarctica was because of the Thule Society, which had a lot of very rich Europeans in it, which was influencing them. And they had all this, they actually like, I don't know. it's a huge rabbit hole to go down. But like, you know, they had reasons to believe in shit that was going on down there. So, you know, who knows?
That's
You know?
crazy.
It would be like today. It would be
was-
like, oh, hey, you're a scientist and you work for Raytheon. You know what Raytheon's into? It's like, yeah, but they also pay for me to go to Antarctica and look at this directed energy weapon or whatever it was. What was? Can somebody explain to me what was going on in that video that we watched? That disclosure that guy was talking about? Because I'm not gonna lie, I got confused.
It was something with like, yeah, there being a directed energy weapon down there, and it being some sort of like control tower for like the one what is it, like space fleet that Gary McKinnon was talking about, but it uses similar, I thought it was using similar technology like what HARP does, where just like a high altitude like frequency, just like shooting shit up there and bouncing it out of the ice or like off the atmosphere.
What was he saying where, you know, I'm the mechanic, I know what's supposed to happen? Like that completely lost me because
some of that definitely was going way over my head.
Okay, cool. It wasn't just me. Okay, cool.
But
I'm down with it. I'm down with it being I'm down with the pyramids in Antarctica. I'm down with it being a source for directed energy. I like the idea that was where Atlantis was.
At least
that's the other thing. That's the other thing. So that's the other thing about Atlantis that's weird is that I do like the idea of it being in Antarctica. I think like it kind of makes sense. I mean, as just somebody who's just normal, like doesn't know anything about, you know, geography, topography, any of those ographies. I don't know a lot of stuff about those, but it's like, yeah, it would make sense if there was a past society underwater that froze over. Yeah, sounds about right.
Well, like when you look at the Perry Reese map, it has part of Antarctica mapped out down at the southern tip of like South America going into Antarctica. And that map he made from like older reference maps that he found in Byzantium. And I think that Antarctica with Atlantis, definitely there's something there, but only I like the pole shift like theory that at some point like the pole shifted, and that's why like the last ice sheet, it was centered over Hudson Bay. It wasn't centered over the North Pole and the South Pole. It was Hudson Bay and I think like part of Australia into Antarctica. So like part of Antarctica during the last ice age was warm and temperate. Like I'm pretty sure there were like really tropical trees there that were flash frozen. Like there were some reports of flowers and trees that were found in there that were flash frozen, that similar to the mammoths up in Siberia, that only would happen if there was this super rapid freezing change in temperature that happened within a few minutes, that I think is explainable through some sort of pole shift.
Yeah, I like the idea of there being this great pole shift that happened so suddenly. But there's like the Greta Thunberg of Atlantis, and she's like, dude, it's because we're using Zoltan conductors. We've got to cut our Zoltan conductor usage down to about 5%. Everything's gonna be cool, and everybody's like, oh, get a load of this fucking broad out here again as they fly by on their water scooter, just like, you know, Avatar.
Oh man, dude, because like there's a few guys. This guy kind of ghosted me on an interview, but there was a guy who believes that Atlantis was in Florida. He believes all biblical events happened in the United States.
Odd.
He's a different guy. I just wanted to pick his brain for a while, but he was like, "Hey, I'm kind of burnt out on those topics." I'm like, "Well, I don't want to fucking talk to you about anything else." Talk about
the vaccine. Come on, talk about the vaccine.
I mean, he has takes on that, but I'm sorry, I know smarter people than that about that. So like, it's just everybody included here. Like, it's just, but like the guy, I mean, he has all these like great takes, like, you know, the oranges, like are amazing, like you know, like Florida oranges were the apples of Eden. Like I'm with you. Like oranges are great. Yeah. And then he thinks every major biblical event happened in America. But how can you be so like on Atlantis? Like how can it be from Florida, right? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know that a lot of people believe him on that, but like how could it be? And then you have it in like isn't there like a Bermuda Triangle or kind of like Caribbean area where a lot of people think like Atlantis could be? Like
that's where I always thought it was.
Yeah, that's why I think for Florida he was saying that this coast would make sense, this pier would make sense. You know, like
I think James Cameron thinks that too.
Yeah. Damn.
What was the Graham Hancock, the steps thing that go into the water? They're all
Bimini
perfect.
Road.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because that's just like just north of Bermuda, I think. So
Yeah.
there was something.
Yeah, what is that? I don't know. I've never heard that.
So I mean, the first time that you see it is on the Perry Reese map, where it's this island of Bimini. It has these like big blocks that look just almost like a crosswalk, like the white pieces of a crosswalk going down. And then there were, I don't remember how it was initially found, but eventually people saw these structures underwater around Bermuda, and it's these just huge slabs that they say are natural.
Dude,
but they don't,
that makes me laugh.
They don't fucking look
Dude,
natural.
They don't fucking look natural. That's my favorite debunking thing, is where you can look at something with your own two eyes and say, what does that look like to you? I'm like, that looks like giant steps. And then they go, no, it isn't.
And that's everything on Mars too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Mars, how the fuck do you know?
That that like air chamber lock that goes into the rock in Mars. It's like perfectly square. It's like a doorway,
dude.
I don't like the Rorschach. I don't like the Rorschach test for that reason, dude. I think we should outlaw the Rorschach test. That's the one with the pictures, right? Where they show you like what's the ink blots and stuff. Because I feel like they're just figuring out who in this group is gonna see steps where there shouldn't be steps. Like I don't like that at all. But yeah, like with the Stephen Meyer thing, like on Rogan was the same thing. Like half of his like critics are just like, well, you're religious. Two, you have you expected to get to this outcome, or like you have to get to this outcome. It's like, no, you have the outcome you have to get to. Like you straight up have funding that needs you to get to this outcome to keep, like I said, school curriculums, all these things like in place, or just further exploration that's funded by the right money and all that. Like you have these things. Like this dude's just like, no, this is just what I studied, and he converted to Christianity too after he found all this stuff. It wasn't like he was just like some Bible kid. Like I could understand the skepticism there if he was just this kid that was raised in like a fundamentalist Christian background. He's like we were kind of Christian, but not like I was like not really super practicing. But after a while, it's like you see enough things. It's like, all right, man, that's enough for me to go. But like that, they also say with that guy Stephen Meyer that Neil deGrasse Tyson, he was kind of shitting on Neil deGrasse Tyson, which was nice to hear. He was just saying like, Newton almost got it, right? Newton almost got it, but his religion is what really stopped him from getting to the truth. And it's like, dude, like that not even trying to talk about that claim, but it's like, dude, we see enough things. We know that what we're told is bullshit. So it's like, even if I'm wrong, it's your fault because you told me the thing was rock solid. You know what I mean? that we had like so therefore if I go somewhere else with it, that's ultimately on you for not being solidified, right? Like this is I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
go ahead.
Good. On me? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to float something by you guys real quick because we're talking about lost civilizations, and this came to me during our talk right now. So you are all familiar with the handbags of the gods, right?
Yeah.
It's
I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you a thing about it. Yeah.
So statues all over the world, from Guatemala to Egypt to Australia to the United States, they all have pictures of these huge beings with animal heads that are holding what look to be like little purses, like little handbags, right? In America, they don't have the kind of anthropomorphized animal figures. They just have the bag shape, and it's stumped people for a long time. What is this bag shape? So I was thinking about the handbags, and I was thinking about the fact that we've been here for millions of years, and that we've seen Atlantis come and go, and we've been visited by things from outer space that have given us technologies. We are probably from outer space. Panspermia is almost certainly true. Like we didn't come from here. And so I was thinking about these guys and their handbags. And then I started thinking about that Camille Paglia quote about like civilizations at the end all become like trans, right? That's like how you can tell that civilizations are falling. So you have a bunch of these furries with purses that are like nice I think I should write a book about this.
That's a great premise. I mean, I think you're 100%. I think you're onto something.
The handbag's like the house call gender clinic or some shit.
Exactly.
Have you guys like tried telling like a normal like boomer about furries? Like tried explaining that to them?
Oh
like
yeah,
dude. Hill type boomer. Like
sadly, my parents know what they are. Sadly,
I had to explain it to my dad once because he asked me. He saw someone walk around with like a fucking foxtail. So he's like, "Hey Scott, I saw this guy with a foxtail. Is that some like new trend or whatever?" I had to explain to him what furries are. And he just looked at me like what the fuck is going on? Like, and I'm like, yeah, no, there's actually like a lot of them too, Dad. Like they're like everywhere. Like
decent
you
amount.
Meet them all the time without knowing it.
Yeah, they solicited sex outside the convention to me once when I was waiting for public transit. It was not great. It was bad. I mean, it didn't happen. No, it didn't happen. Of course, no. But it was this guy that I've told this story a long time ago, but people don't listen to every episode. So, but this guy was like outside. And he looked like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Clint Howard before, Ron Howard's brother, like just that classic like just goober looking guy, and he was at the light rail station. I don't know if he was a furry, but I think he was just like, the furry convention's downtown. I'm gonna be downtown. He just seemed like one of those guys. Like, I'm gonna go where the action's at. Yeah, he seemed like one of those guys. And I was in like college. I think it must have been like 20 maybe. And I'm like standing. I'm like stoned out of my mind, waiting for like the light rail like tram thing to come by and take me back like to where I lived and stuff, and he was at the same stop, and he's just looking at me like just up and down, like barcode scanning me, and I'm just like, just don't fucking say anything, you know what I mean? You know when you're just like completely baked, and you're like, please just don't open your mouth at all, and like at all, and he's like, he looks down, and he just goes, nice shoes, like that. I was like, thanks, like that, and he goes, you want to suck some cock? And I was just like, no, yeah, and like you know, like you tell somebody, like I had some friends, like some like black dudes and stuff that were like tough guys, and I was like I told that story like to them, and they were just like, oh, I would have beat his ass, and I'm like, would you have? You would have like just like absolutely just beat his ass at the fucking light rail station, just like clubbed him to death. Like I was like, well, maybe, I don't know, but I was like, no, I like completely froze up and walked away. I was just like, no, I just completely froze up. But anyways, yeah, that's my.
And that's how we met, and that's how this podcast started. Yeah, it took a little time, you know.
Yeah, you had a Clint Howard vibe back then. Yeah, but you know, to be fair, I was wearing my jeans were ripped at the bottom. You know, like when you would step on, like in the rain, where you'd step on your jeans, they were ripped, like kind of frilled at the bottom, and I had checkered Vans on, so I perhaps invited the energy in. Perhaps, but
I'd say it's 100% your fault.
Yeah. I wasn't ready to accept it. I'm ready to stop being the victim here. That's what we do. Anyways, one last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. I have this really bad habit, since I'm not as well read. That's kind of the whole onus of gain of fiction and everything. But nonfiction, I'm completely not well read, like a lot of philosophy. But I do this thing a lot of times where I'll write a note in my phone when I'm like either like kind of buzzed or like high, and I'll be like, wow, that's such bars. And then I'll like send it to someone, and they'll be like, oh, that person said that. I was like, oh, okay. Like Sir Chensington of the 15th century. I don't know. Yeah, Garfield Chesington said that. I don't know. But like somebody, I was like, oh, well, he sounds cool, you know. And then, but I was thinking last night, because I did read that book, Visitors of Lanulos, and it was really cool. Like I said, it's Indrid Cold taking him to this, I forget what the other planet was called, but it was a planet where like, and this will trip a lot of people out. If you're based in Red Pill, you're going to sound like you're not going to like this where it was. But he went to his planet, and basically like, they were like, yeah, you know, we don't really believe in like gender out here and stuff. And it's not like some guy puts a pink wig on and is like, you call me this. They're like, we just don't care about that. Like you just be a dude, and it's just understood that like, yeah, you're something else, you know. Like they've gotten to a point, they've progressed to a point where like none of this shit matters, I guess, right? Like, and you know, they grow food only for what they need. They don't over industrialize. They only build on demand. Like it was just basically like a huge utopian society. It was like a form of like communism that I think a lot of like people, like well-meaning people that get into communism, they like think it's this. You know, where they're just like, oh yeah, everyone just like shares everything. Like you know, there's no like greed. People have this like community-minded awareness. Like he was taking this rural guy out on this planet, and he even had like vaccines. It was a trip. Like he even had vaccines. Like they shot me up with these vaccines, but like, you know, in my head, I'm thinking like maybe there was a technology to make something that didn't have heavy metals in it that go straight to your brain. Yeah. Shit, this is going on YouTube. I forgot. I guess you could do it later on YouTube, but you know, like maybe they all have autism. I don't know. Like maybe that was what happened. Maybe that was the final goal. But what it was that stuck out was that human beings, there was no words said the entire time. No speaking to each other. The whole time he was like tripping because he's like, I'm saying shit back to them and they understand me. And that idea was that like actually the worst thing, like some of the dumbest shit you can do is like speak, basically. Like speaking is just so like barbaric to them. And I come to realize, like in my sense, like, okay, at that point, what is scripture then, right? Because scripture is, we had these people, and John Keel would say that most of the biblical prophets were just psychic, like super tapped into like their psychic energy to receive messages from God. I think that makes sense, kind of how it's made for the Bible. That would make sense. But with every transfer of information, right, and put it on different mediums, there has to be something lost, right? Like there has to be something lost. Like even if God says, this, and this, like the thing you write down, there's going to be like one thing missing. And I want David to answer this first because you actually are a writer. So like think about something from your brain that comes on. Like when you write it, like you might be like, damn, I told like a really good story. But like, is it ever like as fucking sick as it was in your brain?
Never, no.
Right. So I could understand that. Like even this thought that I just had right now isn't as tight as what I thought. Like because I said it.
Yeah, but dude, a couple of things. Just to interject real quick though. What if the translations, even though they are mistranslations, instead of thinking of them in an entropic way, what if you're gaining things through those translations? So instead of moving from thought and telepathy as being, you know, pure, and because it's pure, that means it's perfect. What if a bit of the editorializing is important? Because just real quick, I think that I really like Alan Watts on stuff like this, and his whole idea of God playing hide and seek with himself. That's what our existences are. It's like if you were an omnipotent creator and nothing was around, you'd get really fucking bored. So you make some stuff and you move them around the board a bit, and then that gets boring too because you have ultimate control. So what does he do? He creates human beings and gives them free will. And he's like, this is going to be tight. Let's see what these fuckers do. So maybe in a way, if you just flip it and think, you know, God is going to send these transmissions to people in pure thought. And part of the fun for God is seeing how it evolves and changes through human words and interpretation.
Sure.
God is a process, right? It's not like it. Yeah, it's like an ever-evolving thing.
Yeah, I guess the only time the only time something that could really get lost is when it's coming from like a straight up like omnipotent, you know, like something more superior than us, right? Like I think that's the only time. But like I think it's cool to play like a little game of telephone with like stuff you hear from other people, because like then it's like a, you know, like a lint roller to the carpet. You pick up everything, right? And I think the ultimate use of your brain is when you can filter out shit that sounds kind of stupid and then take in some of the stuff that sounds kind of cool. I think that part of it's really cool. I just wonder, you know, I do wonder, like, if that is the goal, is to just like, because look, man, some of the, when you're like close friends with somebody, not only are you love talking to them and it's fun, you can have long conversations, but like some of the funniest moments, coolest moments ever is just like when you look, like one time when something's happening and you two are the only people cued in on like, that guy fucking sucks, dude. And you look at each other and like, you're like, that makes you laugh super hard. It's like, that does feel like you've achieved something, right? When you can communicate like non-verbally, I won't say telepathically, but non-verbally in that sense. So I do feel like the idea is like, and I'm somebody who loves to talk, but a lot of times that's a self-defense mechanism for me. You know, truly. Yeah,
the way you said that, it's just the way you said it that made me laugh. You see?
No, I mean, it's funny, but like I've got myself into trouble and out of trouble that way. It's just it's my medium. I don't write. I don't do anything. I speak. So it's just like, but I don't necessarily consider it the final form. You know,
right? There was the episode of Mysterious Universe that Scott shared about the Angel Falls in Venezuela. And the old boy out in the jungle who let his wife and kid go to the United States. And he's like, no, I'm not done thinking yet. and he talks about how to him like thinking and dreaming are the same, so he can wake up from thinking and enter into this pure stream of. I mean, it's got to be a real like that's what Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and all them got to. I would assume, right? Like that's the goal, and then when you finally reach that, you have your your death experience, and you finally pop out of the matrix tube, and they're like, oh, you did it, you won, big pizza party because you won the game.
Nice little slide full of the ball pit,
yeah,
just sick. You're just retarded.
Well, I think this is related. It's like Glenn knows I've been becoming like increasingly libtarded about animals lately. Like, and actually, I'd be curious what you think about this, Sai. But like when it comes to nonverbal communication, like I've been questioning lately, like how more important humans are than like other animals. Just think of like every animal species around the world, right? And like you look at like animals like elephants and shit like that everyone knows are very advanced. And you think about how like animals like in remote parts of the jungle can communicate with each other non-verbally, and for all we know they could be telepathic. We don't fucking know like what actually goes on with them. So it's like I was like thinking because like when Glenn brought this up like earlier, I was like thinking about that because like I think about that a lot too with like animals and like how people like try to like act like humans are more sophisticated and important to them, or our lives matter more to them because we're so much more advanced because animals can't talk. But it's like, does that really fucking matter?
No.
Like in terms of like spiritual terms, you know what I mean? And like people like to like project all this shit on the animals, like, oh, there's nothing going on between in their heads. Like, well, we all know they can dream, for example. Like everyone who has a pet knows that, and like I don't know, there's just something I've been thinking about lately. It's like is like, who gives a shit that animals can't talk to each other? It doesn't mean they're still not like significant beings. They still have friends, they have their own little societies and shit. And like, I think it's just like a cope that humans tell ourselves that, I don't know. Yeah. It's hard. I guess it's hard for me to really explain, but.
No, I think that's true. I think one thing I'm absolutely convinced of is as we advance more as a collective, we will treat animals better, even if we still use them in certain capacities or eat them or whatever. Wear
costumes of them, solicit sex at light rail stations, perhaps.
Perhaps we will exalt them. Yeah,
perhaps they're advanced.
Yeah,
you think about that?
It's so funny. Just as a quick aside, during the furry talk, I was thinking for years I was in this blissful denial, or not denial, but just this ignorance that I thought furries just meant like hot chicks with cat ears. I was like, that sounds dope, dude.
How they rope you in. That's how they rope you in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Twitch.
But then
I
was like,
streaming. Exactly. It's how they get you. But anyways, please go on.
No, but the animal thing. I mean, it's one of those things where every year we learn that they are more intelligent than we previously thought they were. It's like the universe age thing where it's like, it's actually this. And there's crazy stories of like. Because they separate like a cow from its calf during the dairy industry, and like they'll do this and they'll drive the calf 40 miles away, and the mom cow will freak out and escape and travel 40 miles to find her baby. It's like, that's like some magnetic GPS heart love shit, it's like crazy, right? It's like that's like we're fools. If it's just like with sci stuff, if we ignore it, we're just dumb as shit, and we just gotta kind of acknowledge that this is a real part of life.
Totally.
So,
totally. Aidan, I'd like to know what you think about the idea of just nonverbal communication, telepathy, and all that.
Going off that animal thing, I think that like there's a reason why human souls come down and incarnate in human bodies, and I think that there's a reason souls come down in animal bodies. And like just because from like a human point of view, we are the most important because we're here for our like growth and development. I think the animals are here for their own. Like there's a reason that souls incarnate in cats. Like it's probably because they're all like sociopaths and need to learn like how to be calm or something like that. But there's like reasons why we incarnate on this plane, and I think that animals, as we learn more and like maybe do get back in touch with some of that nonverbal, like we'll be able to maybe understand some of that more, because there's something to like being with a dog and living with a dog for years and just they're waiting for you by the time you get home, even if you come home an hour late.
And it's not always food, like everybody says.
No.
Dude, yeah.
I hate
There's
that
something
fucking thing
else.
that it's all food. Shut up, dude. Like
My-
my dog just wants. Yeah, exactly.
My dog has a friend of mine that like she fucking loves, and she knows when he's about to come over like 30 minutes before he even like pulls up his
That's
car.
nuts.
Like, she'll,
The car,
like,
yeah. they
she'll
just
be like
know.
waiting by the window, just like waiting for him. She just intuitively knows whenever he's about to come over.
That's what Rupert Sheldrake,
You know?
Terrence McKenna's friend, he did like a decade worth of science on that exact phenomenon of dogs knowing what's going to happen in the next 30 minutes. Their owners, they'll send their owners home in like taxis, take different routes, put cameras up. The dogs know, even if it's random times during the day and shit. It's crazy. Dude. Like dogs know that shit. It's
Well, and that, I believe all that stuff. But Aidan, do you think in advanced civilization, do you think they ever got to that point of just not? I'm sure there's always some sort of verbal communication, but do you ever think that, like, to the most part, maybe they were a little bit more communal and like homogenous in a sense to where it worked that way? But do you think that? Do you think they were able to just kind of communicate with minimal words to where messages get? Because like you think about like hate speech right now. And we understand the political angle of like hate speech and stuff. But like, what if we like? Do you think somebody could tell I was going to say a racial slur? Like if I didn't say it, like that's what I wonder. Like, but like we said it or like a joke, like just me verbally saying something out loud, like it shouldn't. It adds a whole new thing to it. So I just mean like, do you think society's figured this out in the past?
Definitely. On my weirder days, like I don't know if any of you guys have like
today's not that day. No.
Yeah. But Madame Blavatsky, when she was talking about like the devolution of the soul into these like physical bodies, like when they first came down, they were way less physical than we are now, and slowly we've kind of been sinking into this physical reality, becoming more physical. In times past, we didn't have that need for speech. We didn't even really have it developed or evolved yet because we weren't so rooted in this physical. So I think, parts of that, like, as we kind of step back and realize that the material is just a manifestation of the spiritual and that this is all kind of fake, it's not really real, that we get closer to that truth and are able to understand those underlying feelings. Like if you're in a room with someone and they just have just bad energy, just like hateful vibes, you can feel it radiating off of them. And I think that that's holdover from those previous times, and just because that's such a strong emotion and visceral like feeling that you can still feel it. But I think definitely at times past we had that developed, and it's kind of come around and been lost.
Right.
And who knows if we're going to come back? Like,
well, we're on the it's so hard. I mean, look, I can see some posts that are like you're bad vibes, like I can tell, but like for a lot of times it's like we're not in the room together. I can't see it from the minute, like whereas if I'm at like I was at Chuck E. Cheese yesterday, I saw some bad vibes. I was there.
Were you really?
Then not for fun. I was there for a kid's birthday party, but like I don't just hang out there. Let's not get the forums going. But I'm not on any lists. But no, I was there, and there was just a couple people where I was just like, yeah, man. And one guy was just walking around with like a duck bill, like one of those crazy duck bill masks, like, and not like a duck either, like the COVID weird like ones. And he was just really messing up the vibe of the whole place, not because of the mask, but I think the mask was a part of it. But like we're on the internet now, to where like we're just with a bunch of people we'd never normally talk to. We'd never do this, but like you don't really know until like you really start seeing some shit from people that they're bad. And I think like that's going to be tough for us to revert back to unless we make a concerted effort, I think. Right.
Yeah. No. And I think that the internet I think it's a deliberate tool for getting us away from the spiritual and rooting us in the physical
100%.
and taking us away from ever being able to get back in touch with that. Like, I mean, the whole idea that there's this kind of invisible field that everything that is ever done in the real world gets imprinted on, that we can go back and touch. Like, there's ideas in ancient myths of what this was, like the Akashic record, and now they're trying to like create that with the internet, where everything you do in this invisible webbed place, there's going to be some sort of imprint for all of eternity. And once we get the Neuralink, or once we get any sort of like augmented reality where you're in touch with this forever, I don't know, I think it'll be part of like fully cementing us away from that spiritual. And there's going to be some weird side effects from
it's
that.
got to come to a
sure.
head. It's got to come to a head. Like it's got to, there's got to be some climax to this, right? I hope, like, because if there isn't, that's what sucks, is when it's just like that Terry Gilliam Brazil, just like netherworld of just cables and like just random things like that. But what you said earlier is just like the whole none of this matters. I think people get scared when people say none of this matters, because that's the dreaded nihilism. If you're I don't think that's the case, but I think when you tell people none of it matters, the problem is like actually nothing matters until you decide nothing matters. Like I truly think like once you wipe the slate clean, and I had to go through this many more times than I should have, because I kept fighting it, like I said, but just to kind of realize like I don't need to make that person happy. That person, right? Just person X. That person means nothing to me. And I don't wish ill will on them, but they will not weigh into my day-to-day life about making them happy, right? When you start kind of realizing, like you said, that weird interaction you had with somebody, it shouldn't eat at you for the rest of the day. You know, like it shouldn't matter, because there is something bigger going on. I think people can conflate that as like nihilism, nothing matters, log off and grill, all the fun online terms that are attached with that. And it's not what it is.
No, it couldn't be farther from the truth. Like it's nothing matters, so it all matters. Like you have to be very, I don't know. It doesn't matter because it's not like real, so don't like put so much weight in trying and like going and doing stuff. Like not that it doesn't matter, so let's just sit in my coom cave all day and not leave the internet. Like it's ridiculous.
Coom cave.
Yeah, we have that's about 30% of the listeners, so maybe don't attack them. But yeah, that's
sorry.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're still running a business, Aidan. Yeah, but yeah. Other than that, I didn't have much more. Did you guys have anything more going today? I didn't have much more on my non-existent docket that I pretend to have.
No. I finished reading The Invisibles today. That was
Very
cool.
Let's go.
I know David's into that.
See my tattoo? You probably can't see it.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
But we got to see the tat. We got to see the tat. That's Grant Morrison.
The thing is, like, David could probably explain it way better to me, because I just finished reading it for the first time since like 2007 or something. And it's a comic book series from the 90s. And I think like its main like cult audience, because it developed like a cult following over time, is mostly people who don't read comics. So like don't let that like scare you away from it. But it's really, really cool, man. Like, I mean, basically it came out in the 90s, and like any like concept, like if you listen to like Coast to Coast AM episodes during its peak era in the 90s, like every concept that like comes up on the show is in that book. In that series. It was a comic book series, and like I have the original paperback releases of it, so it's like 7 volumes. But dude, it's like I would really recommend anyone who's into like conspiracy or paranormal shit to check it out, because basically the premise of it is like the guy who wrote it believes everything in it is real, so it's not like
nice.
It gets cool. Like I remember, Glenn, I sent you like a screenshot from it, dude. Like
the
it's
polio thing, right?
Oh my god, dude, there's so much shit. They cover they cover vaccines in it, but like there's also like a part like in like there's like an underground base in Dulce in New Mexico, which were like, if you're into this like all that 90s conspiracy shit, you would know about the ideas that there's an underground like alien / military base there. And a lot of the book takes place there, and they got like traps for remote viewers and shit set up. It's like, dude, it's really, really, really cool. And like the whole like premise of it is basically that after the first A-bomb test, like it like opened up like a dimensional rift in reality, and then allowed archons to like start getting their way into our universe, which archons are basically like the villains in Gnostic mythology. And so then like all the elites around the world, like some of them start like teaming up with them and shit. And it's a really, really cool series. I'd recommend if you're into like sci-fi at all and like want to like read something that like a guy who's actually really into this shit wrote, I would recommend checking out. And like I first read it back in like 06, 07 when I was like first getting like I was like really deep into my like I have explained earlier on the show when I started like me getting into the paranormal coincided with me getting into psychedelics, you know? So like, it was just really crazy. I first like learned about the series because of all that psychedelic shit I was into. because it was really popular with like people in that world. So yeah, definitely check it out. I'd recommend it a lot. It's really cool, even if you hate comic books, because like I'm not really a comic guy either. So, but yeah, it was awesome. I'm really glad I read it again.
Yeah, sounds like I'm the like odd man out on this. I haven't messed with it.
I mean, David's got a tattoo, so obviously, you know.
Yeah. He's for the listeners, for the non video listeners, David took off his pants, and it's in a very interesting spot.
It's in a very strange place. Yeah, in an
Right
invisible place.
It's artful. It's artful. I'll tell you that much.
No, it's I'm a huge Grant Morrison guy. I went to Morrison Con in 2012 at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas, which is like the Verizon hotel now. It's fucking lame, but yeah, Morrison was he got his start in comics, writing superhero shit, and there was this beautiful time in the mid 90s where guys like him and Alan Moore and Warren Ellis and Garth Ennis could kind of do whatever they wanted. Whenever DC first started its Vertigo imprint, which was like, that was like the comic book HBO, where you could do whatever prestige series you wanted to. But yeah, I mean, Scott gave a really good rundown of what the whole thing is about. But what's really interesting about it is that Morrison, through writing it, he made a tulpa of himself in the main character, who's a guy named King Mob, who he said he tried to create a protagonist that was just him, but the coolest version of himself, right? So he basically makes this guy a badass secret agent who fucks a bunch of girls and travels the world being a badass, but he gets captured by the bad guys at like volume 2 or 3, right? And they give him a substance called Key 23, and Key 23 makes it so that any word that you see becomes reality, right? So they show this King Mob character a mirror with a Post-it note on it that says your face is melting, and it makes King Mob's face start to melt off. Well, in real life, after he wrote that issue and it was published, he got a staph infection on his face that almost killed him. And like, it looked, when it was at its worst, exactly like it looked like his character in the comic book. So he created this occult, he called it a hyper sigil. Sigil being, you know, a symbol that you put lots of intent into. In chaos magic, what you do is you write down your intention, you take out the vowels and the repeating consonants, and then from the remaining letters, you create a design, and then you focus on it really intensely. Some people say you're supposed to masturbate over it, right? Because you're just putting that much energy into it. But basically what you do with that symbol, once you're done with it, is you hide it in a place where you're not likely to see it every day, but you'll just glance at it. And so from like a neuro-linguistic training perspective, it's reminding you of your goals, whatever. But from a magic perspective, it's putting your intent into the world. So anyway, he created the Invisibles as a hyper sigil, and it worked way better than he intended. And the whole thing is infused with that like colorful X-Files, weirdo occult energy. I did a podcast on a show called Rune Soup. If anybody listening wants to look it up, about the Invisibles. So me and Gordon talk about it for like 2 hours. So
hell yeah.
After listening to this, go check that out.
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. Well,
yeah. The thing is, like, when it was out, like the series wasn't even that popular because like the average guy like going to like the comic book store was into like superhero shit and wasn't buying it because it was fucking weird as hell. Because like I said, like it's more popular now with like people who don't read comic books. And so at one point though, because the sales were so bad, apparently in one issue he like told the readers to jerk off while like thinking like manifesting in their minds that the Invisibles would continue so it wouldn't get canceled so he could
lotion luck, he called it.
Yeah, and like so and he was able to finish it. You know, it went on for a pretty long time. Like I don't know how many issues it came out to, like probably close to 100 or something like that. But
dude, that's
really good.
That's a really good concept for anytime you like release art into the world. Just be like, hey, just jerk off to it and see what happens.
Yeah,
like, just
everyone reading this, just jerk off while thinking about the Invisibles so it doesn't get canceled. And
it's like I want you to print out a picture of Cy and print out a picture of Glenn. And I want you to make a TikTok of you thinking about Rare Candy's success.
Dude, RC Cum tribute. I fully authorize it. Go ahead. I mean, I'm not gonna like that doesn't hurt our popularity. Like if anything, it just shows enthusiasm for the show. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you. Hey, you do. Well, no, I'm not gonna make any promises, but But my final thought was essentially I think one of the more occult things that's happened for me in a while is the Trader Joe's dessert aisle. There's origins I think that are. I'd like a Y-Files episode on the Trader Joe's dessert aisle because everything's good, everything tastes good. It doesn't make me feel bad either, but it is probably bad for me. So I don't know. Somebody look into that. There's very odd origins. They have the best like mint chip ice cream. Why would Trader Joe's have that? Why would Trader Joe's have that? Like, it just doesn't make sense, man. Everything, I don't know. Just gonna say. Yeah. Maybe because everybody wears Hawaiian shirts. It's good vibe. I don't know.
We were just there today. Like, my girlfriend and I went today. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, you think you don't need anything from Trader Joe's, and you're like, actually, everything's the best here. So,
I was actually in a bad mood about Trader Joe's today because we went early and it was really not crowded at all. Mm-hmm. And then it got crowded as we were there. And this one dude was like sending his women ahead as like her scout, and she kept like weaving in front of us and like going back. And by the end of it, I was like, it happened like 8 times. I'm like, dude, you're always in our fucking way. So I was not jinged up, dude. I was not
jinged up.
Dude. I was like, yeah. Just wanted to put that.
Very hard store to navigate. Very hard store to navigate. Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe just, I understand. Like, I have this one that's like really, it's a very large space for a Trader Joe's. It's like a Tony Hawk fucking airplane hangar size thing that they have. But it's like the aisles are still this wide. And I'm just like we're in America. Everybody's huge here. Like if me who, you know, if I'm shopping at Trader Joe's and getting desserts, I can be a little wide. But other than that, like if I'm having trouble getting down this aisle, but maybe they're trying to keep fat people out of Trader Joe's. I don't know. But nonetheless, one more last round of plugs. Follow Aidan on Twitter at it's _good_Mac MAC. Scott, are you still at Box Sets?
Yeah, I am.
Follow him. Well, he's like, don't follow me. Yeah, but he's like, no, follow him.
I don't post that much anymore, but you know, I post like twice a day.
Good corgi content, man. Good corgi content. Corgi and CDs. But if you want the Scott experience of like, well, let's see what Scott. We got 3 pretty long, extensive episodes with him. I'd love to do some more Coast to Coast episodes, but guess what? They don't update the archive. So I don't know what happened there. It just hasn't been updated in quite some time. They teased us one time. We got one little like I think it was the Gnostic one or something. Which was really cool, but it was
great.
But it was just one. And then the weird guy, the fake mercenary guy who just completely was lying the whole time. And just that guy was so lame. All the Tactical Art Bell fans called him out for being fake. It was really funny.
Dude, they still haven't even uploaded the Chris Carter episode. Like, what the fuck?
Or the Dean Koontz.
Everyone wants to hear that.
Dude, who wouldn't want to hear Dean Koontz for like 3 hours on Art Bell at like 2 a.m. fighting sleep, dude? Like, fuck, dude. I would love that. So, everybody listen to Agitator. David, drop the link one more time. Where to find you?
Oh yeah, that's patreon.com/agitator.
I like to pretend we're like Art Bell, where his website's like, oh, it's not working because so many fans are going and clicking on it right now. My 1997 internet is not supporting it. That's one of my favorite parts of Coast to Coast is when a guy like has like a small website, but he goes on Coast to Coast and says the URL and none of the pictures of what he saw load up because the website's overloaded. That's one of the best things. Anywho, yeah, listen to Agitator, buy his books. His co-host Kelby's got some great stuff. I just did on a YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, it's this exact channel. I did a little special on letting out the devils. I will get into, I believe I have God's Fair No Better. I have that. I have that, and I plan to use that as one of my things. So we're going to be getting into some of the fun RC adjacent literature. So that is that's to come. For us, we have a Substack, rarecandy.substack.com. It's fun. It doesn't bite. And Bob's Red Pill is the best thing going on Substack right now, in my humble opinion. We need a new red pill, I think, personally. I think.
Well, let's do the Mars one. You guys down to collab?
Yeah, you guys can collab.
I'll
on
help
Mars.
you out if I can.
Just whatever. Just get it. I think we need to do that. And and also you're trying to bend the spoon. So
I'm trying. So I was digging through my drawer. We're still at that stage where we have every piece of silverware we have is like different, you know.
Yeah, and also they're expensive. You know, your girlfriend's like, not that spoon. Don't. They're fucking expensive.
And that's the thing. We only use like 2 of them because we pick out the. But yeah, so I was rifling through them, and some of them are super easy to bend. Like you could convince yourself you bent it. And then one, I found a fork that's like rock fucking hard, and I'm trying. I'm gonna play with it. Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah,
definitely. All right.
What if it happens, dude? Like that's just what the fuck?
It will happen.
And we're gonna put it on wax,
it's not gonna happen because you said what if.
That's true.
That's
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Like, did you not listen to Mr. Gallenberger himself?
Yeah.
You already said what if. No, when it works.
Yeah.
Things will change. So anywho, yeah. Everybody have a safe week. Catch you guys next time.